What's going on, guys? Mango here, and today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to get rid of my script. Usually for these long-form content videos where I'm espousing my views on the Overwatch universe, I have a script that I stick to, but not today. In an effort to create some more timely content for you guys, I'm ditching the script. I'm going off the top of my head. I am freestyling, and I'm just going to say whatever comes to my mind. So, what's today's topic? Today, I'm going to talk about the Roadhog meta. What is the Roadhog meta? Well, if you go back to our most recent balance patch, which was about 2 weeks ago, Roadhog saw a buff to his kit, which seemed kind of small. All it did was increase the damage to each pellet of his scrap gun by 1 damage. I think it went from 6 to 7. But the result of that is his one-shot combo is more lethal, more consistent, and more easy to hit than it's almost ever been. And as a result of that, Roadhog is getting played more than he has in almost the entirety of competitive Overwatch history, at least since the beginning, since Season 1, 2, 3, when he was seeing a decent amount of playtime. Now in Grandmaster's play, he's actually seeing more playtime than any other tank, and he actually has the highest win rate of any other tank right now, except for maybe Zarya. I think him and Zarya are tied right now. So all this just because his one-shot combo became more powerful. So that has resulted in this Roadhog meta, right? Where you're just seeing a lot more Roadhog. And in this video, we're going to make a couple assumptions when I'm talking about the Roadhog meta. One, I've already talked about, we're going to be seeing more Roadhogs in our competitive games. The second one, which is kind of as a result of the first one, is you're going to be seeing less shields as a result of there being more Roadhogs. Now, that's kind of twofold. Just by having Roadhog in your lineup, you're less likely to have a shield, right? That's just one tank slot that's not going to be a shield. So you're already less likely to have a shield for that reason. But also, with the prevalence of Hog, it's really turned our games into more of a deathmatch style game where teams are less centralized, they're spread out more, looking for picks, and you just don't need a shield tank as much when you're playing like this. So you're seeing less Reinhardt, Sigma, Orisa, and you're seeing a lot more Zarya or Ball being paired with Roadhog. So those are 2 assumptions going into this video. 1, there's more Roadhog. 2, there's just going to be less shields in general. Like I touched on earlier, this has led to a much more deathmatchy style play, right? Where if you think about it, if you have a shield tank, you tend to group up around that shield tank, right? Teams stick together more. That's kind of how we've been taught to play Overwatch for the last 10 or 15 competitive seasons. It's group up, play together, and you have a more likely chance to win the fight. But this season just feels completely different. It feels like chaos right now. And if you've been playing competitive, you know exactly what I mean. Healers in particular are feeling kind of hard to play right now just because you don't have a shield to hide behind, and teams are a lot more spread out, and you just don't have a whole lot of places to hide anymore. As a result, fights have become a lot more pick-based, and they're not as decisive as they were in previous seasons. What I mean by that is, in previous seasons when you had shield tanks and grouped up teams, usually fights happened and were over pretty quickly. One team quickly got a 1 or 2 man advantage and snowballed that into just a whole fight win very quickly. But now one side can get 2 picks and still lose the fight fairly easily. The way team comps are going right now is everyone has pick potential. So even if one side does get 2 picks, there's a soldier or a Widowmaker on some off angle, and they can easily punch back with 2 picks of their own. And all of a sudden, the fight's right back at a 4v4, right? Whereas before, you lose your main tank or your main healer, your team's kind of in a really rough shape. Where now, if you lose your main healer or one of your tanks or whoever, the team comps that are being played right now provides enough pick potential that they can still carry their team to a victory. Okay, let's talk about how to succeed in the Roadhog meta, right? Now, I think the first general rule I can kind of talk about here that you can apply to almost any game, but especially if you're solo queuing, is to play self-sufficient heroes. What I mean by that is playing heroes that either have a self-heal or mobility that can get them out of a bad situation. I'm talking heroes like Tracer that have a lot of mobility, and if they get into trouble, they can recall and get back to safety. Or heroes like Mei that can ice block, which gives her health and gives her time for her team to kind of rally around her or for her to figure out how to get back to safety. Playing self-sufficient heroes is going to work really well in this meta because, like I said, teams are a lot less centralized around a shield tank, so you're going to be off on an island a lot more often. And what I've noticed is you can't rely on heals too much, or not as much as you could when you were all grouped up and it was easy for a healer to heal you up if you got damaged. The reason being, these healers are often, you know, trying to heal some other DPS on the other side of the map that's gotten themselves in trouble, while the other one is trying to pocket your hog, or you have a Mercy that's in the sky with Pharah. You just can't really count on healing too much in this meta. So the most consistent way to provide value and keep yourself in the fight is to play a self-sufficient hero that can either heal himself or herself, or has the kind of mobility to keep them out of trouble. Now, another strategy that I've found successful in my own personal time has been playing in a tank duo. For some reason, just having some synergy with the other tank player in your team seems to work really well, especially if one of you two are running Roadhog, which I would really recommend starting almost every game with a hog on your team just due to how powerful his one-shot potential is right now. Being able to duo with another tank player also gives you the flexibility for when the hog pick isn't working out for whatever reason. It allows you guys both to switch onto a more effective comp, like switch into a Zarya Reinhardt if the Roadhog pick just isn't working out. Watching good streamers like Harblu has been finding a lot of success tank duoing. A lot of the big tank players have been duoing with another tank, and they've been seeing a lot of success. So I can't really put my finger on it. If you know why, put it in the comments, but tank duoing right now seems to be like a really effective way to win games. Final point of how to succeed in this Roadhog meta is if you are playing Hog, and this is a big one, just because Hog is really good right now doesn't mean he's always the best pick for the situation. So this last tip is, if you're playing Hog, know when to switch off of Hog. If it's not working, don't try and force it. Okay, if the other team is just really comped to counter your Roadhog pick, switch off to something that's going to provide a little more value to the team. If the enemy team has a Sombra that's consistently hacking you, or a Reaper that just outplays your hook and is getting eliminations on you time and time again, put your ego away and switch to a different character. Just because Hog is good right now doesn't mean he's good in every single situation, and he's not a must-have pick all the time. By all means, because I'm doing this right now too, start your game on Hog, but know when to switch if it's not working. I even had a game where I wasn't necessarily out-comped by the other team, but my team was filled with people that have displacement abilities. I'm talking Lucio or Junkrat or Pharah, Brigitte. So every time I threw out a hook, the enemy was getting booped by something, and I just couldn't land any hooks. This is another situation where if you're not landing hooks for that reason, or maybe you're just not feeling it in that game, you're having trouble landing hooks on the enemy team, know when to switch off if you're not getting value on Hog. If you're not getting value on Hog, at least give your other tank teammate the option to play him if you're not feeling it. So what heroes do I think are looking good right now for this meta, right? I'll throw my tier list that I made up here on screen for you guys to take a look at. So in the top tier right now, obviously I have Roadhog. He's got the whole meta named after him. You should definitely start every game with a Roadhog on your team just because of how powerful his hookshot combo has become. Otherwise, I have Zarya going with him just because she pairs well both with Roadhog and against an enemy Roadhog, right? So if you have a Roadhog on your team, she's really great for throwing a bubble on him when he extends out to get a pick, and it's really great for growing Zarya's own charge. And it allows her to also kind of play that dually deathmatchy playstyle that's in right now, where she can win a lot of one-on-one duels once she gets that ult charge up. Whereas even if you don't have a Roadhog on your team, you can expect one on the other team, and having that secondary bubble to bubble a teammate that gets hooked can be a huge game changer. And for that reason, she's one of the top of the meta right now for me. Otherwise, I'm going to put two of what I consider the best DPS counters to Roadhog in this S tier. One of them being Sombra, just because I think she shuts Hog down from the DPS slot better than any other character in this current meta. Just because when Hog is hacked, he just has a really hard time. He's slow, he can't heal himself, he can't hook himself, so he really has no offense or defense. He's just a big fat ult battery at that point. So if you pick Sombra and you literally just sit on the Hog all game, you're going to find a lot of success, I think. And even if the Hog isn't poking out too far so you can't catch him out of position, even playing behind him and just using him as an ult battery, he's one of the best ult batteries for Sombra, especially if you can hack him first before you start shooting him. Finally, for the S tier, we have Reaper, who he used to be like I used to consider him just the best Roadhog counter. Like, this is back when Roadhog couldn't very consistently one-shot the Reaper from his hook. Now it's a lot more consistent, so with Reaper, you definitely have to outplay the hook. You either have to dodge it or wait for it to go on cooldown. Once that does happen, basically if Hog doesn't have the hook available for the Reaper will just eat the Hog up like 9 times out of 10, unless Hog gets a lucky headshot onto him up close. But otherwise, Reaper's just a really solid counter to Hog. If we look at the A tier down here, I have Ana and Mercy as the best healers in this meta right now. Ana, once again, just because she counters Roadhog so hard, his big chunky frame is easy for her to land sleep darts on, and obviously that anti-nade takes away his healing. So if you catch him out of position, that anti-nade and sleep dart combo is basically a death sentence for any enemy Hog. And Mercy is great right now because, like I said, with the deathmatch nature of this meta and the lack of a shield tank to hide behind in a lot of matches, Mercy's able to fly around to all of her different DPS players or tank players, provide them support, but also her damage boost is super powerful in this meta right now just because everyone's looking for picks. It's a pick-based meta as opposed to more of a team play meta, so being able to damage boost your heroes is huge. And finally, reses are actually really big in this meta right now too, where they have a lot more impact as opposed to previous metas or previous patches where sometimes reses you wouldn't have a chance to res until there were already 4 or 5 people dead on your team, and at that point the fight's already lost. But nowadays, like I said, 1 or 2 picks isn't the end of the world for a team fight now, so having a res can actually be huge in swinging a fight that's not quite over yet. Then I also have Winston, because I find Winston kind of pairs with Roadhog really well. He has the mobility to get up to high ground and get to areas that Roadhog can't easily, or chase down more nimble enemy heroes. And I've just found that he pairs really well with Roadhog for whatever reason. He's not super hard countered by Roadhog either, just because his shield does allow him to dodge a lot of the hooks if played well, but once again, this is more of a skill matchup. Now, the rest of the A tier are basically all just DPS heroes that I think thrive in this meta, in this deathmatchy meta, where there's not a lot of barriers to have to shoot around in the case of Widowmaker. So like Widow and Hanzo being snipers, they don't have to worry about barriers so much, so they're going to be a lot more effective in getting these kind of solo picks. Tracer, Mei, and Soldier are all going to be those, self-sufficient heroes that can kind of take care of themselves and keep themselves out of danger more or less and aren't super healer reliant. And then Echo is just kind of good at poking from afar. Finally, I even threw Brigitte into this tier just because she's a good duelist, and especially with the recent sort of rework to her kit, she's giving herself even more healing, so she's better off in these one-on-one duels, although some of her value is lost because a lot of her team healing is based on the team being closer to her, and like I said, people are playing very spread out these days, so she might not be getting as much team healing as someone like an Ana or a Mercy could. For the B tier list, these are all kind of people who are neutral in this meta. They're not really disadvantaged too much in any way. You can certainly play these heroes if you're very comfortable on them or the situation calls for it, or they can be very map dependent too, but generally I don't think they bring a ton of, extra value to this meta where we're not seeing, a ton of shields, but we are seeing a ton of Roadhog. So these I won't touch on too much, other than I'll just make a note on Zenyatta. He can be a really great counter for Roadhog, but only if you have a shield tank on your team. In this meta, if you're not playing with a shield tank and you're Zenyatta, you just get caught out on an island way too often. You don't have mobility, you don't really have your own self-heal other than the shield regeneration health. So he can get left out in the cold really easily if you got like a Roadhog and a Zarya playing together, or like a Roadhog and a Wrecking Ball. So he can be good, but you have to surround him with the right kind of heroes. The rest of these, like I said, if it's a comfort zone character, go ahead and play it. They're not at a super disadvantage. I just think some other heroes might be a little better positioned to succeed in this meta. C tier are characters that just are at, I guess I'd say, a slight disadvantage, or the strengths of their kit are kind of mitigated by what's going on in this meta. Moira, she's good at healing grouped up teammates, and if you're going to see a lot of Hog, her primary attack and even her damage orb isn't going to do a whole lot to Hog, so she just loses a lot of value. She's got her face, so she has a little bit of mobility, but most of all, she's just kind of meh right now. Symmetra, I think she thrives when there's like a lot of shields, so with the lack of shield, she's not going to do great. Diva, she can get hooked through defense matrix. Baptiste, he can get hooked out of his immortality field. Doomfist, once again, he can get hooked, and his whole kit kind of relies on not getting CC'd while he's diving the enemy team. Bastion, might not be terrible. He can chew a hog up pretty quick, but him getting hooked out of his turret form is also pretty much a death sentence. So maybe there's a better pick out there. Finally, poor Orisa is the only one I got in the D tier just because she feels really bad to play right now. Her shield is like wet tissue paper. They just nerfed her, what do they call it? Her pull, whatever her pull is called. It just feels bad. It's faster. Its range is way smaller. It just doesn't feel good to play with. I'd avoid her at almost all costs right now. Just not feeling good to play. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, I'm gonna talk about the last part of the video to help you out is hero combos that can help you succeed in this meta. So I put together a few hero combos that you can try if you have like a 2 or 3 man stack that you can get some natural synergy with in this meta. The first one I want to talk about is Hog, Zenyatta, and a shield tank. Probably either Rhine or Sigma since Orisa is so bad right now. Like I touched on earlier, Zenyatta is actually a great counter for Hog because if you can get that Discord on him, he goes down super fast. But the problem is if you don't have a shield tank for Zenyatta, he's not going to last himself long enough to really have an impact. He's going to get caught out by tracers or widowmakers, by some flanking enemy, and if he doesn't have a shield tank to kind of hug, he's gonna die really quickly. For that reason, pairing the Hog Zenyatta with a Reinhardt or Sigma is gonna get you a lot of value. Just being able to protect the Zenyatta will give you a lot more firepower and will let you whittle down the enemy Hog a lot faster than your Hog is gonna get whittled down. Now, the second hero combo is gonna be like this total counter Hog team comp. If you just have an enemy Hog that's really good, that's carrying the entire match, I'd recommend switching to this comp just to give him the hardest time possible and try to get him to switch off it, okay? So this comp is going to be Ana, Zenyatta, Sombra, Reaper, and some sort of shield tank, right? So Ana, once again, her kit is a total shutdown for Roadhog. It's really easy to land sleep darts on him, really easy to land anti-nades, while Zenyatta's Discord orb will just turn the Roadhog into mincemeat, no problem. Then, like I touched on, Sombra and Reaper are my 2 S tier damage picks right now, and if they both focus the Hog, there's just no way he's gonna survive. And then if you put a shield tank in the mix, I found Sigma's really good at this, but just using shields to block his hooks to make sure he's not hooking your team, it's gonna make his life unbearable, and hopefully he will switch off to a hero you guys are better suited off against, or at least weaker in this meta. Right now, this final trio that I'm going to talk about is Hog, Zarya, and Mercy. I already touched on why the Hog Zarya synergy is so great. Zarya being able to build up her charge on a friendly Hog while also saving her teammates from an enemy Hog by bubbling whoever gets hooked. But then putting a Mercy in there really enables this deathmatchy style comp because Hog and Zarya are both pretty self-sustaining. So having a Mercy on your roster really will allow her to pocket one of your DPS or even one of your tanks, but really allow her to act like a true pocket and do a ton of damage boosting without having to worry too much about healing. Like I said, since Hog and Zarya are so self-sufficient, especially when paired together, Mercy doesn't have to worry about healing the tanks too much, which means she can focus on giving her DPS an advantage in the duels. Now that's all I got for you guys today. I don't know if I rambled. I don't know if I didn't. I had no script today. We'll see how this turns out. If you guys like this, I would certainly like to keep pushing out content in this form as it doesn't take me as long to make stuff like this. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Let me know what you guys think about the Roadhog meta and where Roadhog's at right now. Do you love him? Do you hate him? What do you think about playing in this deathmatch style? Let me know below. Otherwise, this has been Mango. Thanks for watching and good luck out there. Genji's solo is behind point or something. I got him. Oh my god. Mercy. Nice. God damn it. What the fuck? Wow. Wow. We just ran through them. Oh, God. That's so ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Wow.